개발자 TV.
So we've got collections down, we know about properties, and now we know about records and kind of what they are and how they are added to the database, right? Either from the back end by you or from the front end by your users. And the last thing that I want to cover about databases specifically is the relationship property. And this is often what gets a lot of people confused. So a relationship property is really allowing two different collections to interact with each other, right? So instead of, obviously users can have multiple posts, right? I can create multiple posts as a user, but instead of going into the user's collection and adding a finite amount of properties to hold, information about a post, right? Obviously I could go into the user's collection and say, add an image property here that says, oh yeah, they're going to have a post image, right? Well, this is great, but they would only ever be able to add however many post images I add here, right? So if I wanted them to be able to create a second post, I'd have to create a, post image 2, right? And that's just not scalable, right? That doesn't really work, right? Because they can't add a dynamic amount of posts this way. They can only add however many, they can only add the amount of posts that I have in properties here. So the way that we kind of get around this is by making these two collections talk to each other, right? And we do that through relationships. And I'm going to add one right now. So I'm going to click on Add Property. I'm going to go to Relationship, and this is going to ask me, what do you want to create a relationship with? And because this is users and I'm trying to create a relationship that explains how many posts or what posts the user has created, I'm going to create a relationship with posts, right? And this modal that pops up is, kind of confusing, but it does a really good job of explaining probably the best way to explain this in as simple of terms as possible is, a post is to kind of ask yourself these as questions, right? To say, okay, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to make it so that users can have multiple posts, right? And so I'm really just going to look through these options and choose which one best suits the relationship that I'm trying to create. So can a post have multiple users? Not really, right? It can only have one creator. And that's also a useful tip to do here is to replace the collection word with the role that relationship plays. So in this case, if I'm trying to define who the creator of a post is, I'm going to replace users with creator. So a post, can it have multiple creators? No, it can't really have multiple creators. It can only have one creator. So this one seems pretty close. A post can only have one creator, right? And a creator can have multiple posts. So that sounds right because I as a creator can create multiple posts. So I'm going to choose this one and then click done. And we've just created a relationship for users and posts. Now, instead of just leaving this as is, I'm actually going to add some more definition to this title here. And I'm going to call this created posts so that I don't get confused. Now, anytime that you create a relationship, it also creates a reciprocal property in the related collection. So over here in the posts collection, you'll see that it's created a property for me called user. And I just want to make sure that I go in here and instead of calling it user, because this is too generic, I don't know what this is, I'm going to call this creator, right? So now I have a collection of posts, and now those posts have a creator that is referenced from the user's collection. And in this way, we can look up information about certain things through that relationship. So for instance, if I have a post on the screen and I want to look up information about its creator, I can do that through this relationship right here. So we've got users, we've got posts. let's go ahead and add kind of a similar thing to comments here. So a comment obviously can have a creator or an author of that comment. So I'm going to create a relationship for the comment with the user, right? And again, it's asking me kind of the same thing here. Can a user only have one comment? Not really. They can comment on lots of different posts, right? So I'm actually going to choose this first one here, right? A user can have multiple comments, but a comment really only has one creator or one author. So I'm going to choose that one, click done. And same thing here. We're going to change this from, we'll change this to maybe author, I think. And again, back in the users collection, see, it's got us it created us something here called comments. And now this one is probably pretty good. This one's pretty self-explanatory. We know what that means. So we could probably just leave that one as is. And a comment can also be related to a post, right? So let's create a relationship to posts. So a post can have multiple comments. We know that that's true. Is it true that a comment belongs to one post? I think that's true, right? A comment can't belong to multiple posts. So we'll click that first one. And a quick way to tell what type of relationship it is to look at this little icon right here. If it's a single sheet of paper, you know that a comment can only have one post, right? If I go to the post collection, you'll notice that there are multiple little sheets of paper here, and a post can have multiple comments attached to it. All right, so that's a quick little tip there about that. All right, so we've got comments. Let's look at notifications. Let's pass on notifications for right now. Let's look at messages. So a message, it can obviously have a creator. So let's create a relationship to the user. So a user can certainly send multiple messages, and a message really only has one creator, right? So it's going to be this first one here. And we'll call this maybe the author of the message, right? And again, back in the users collection, we'll go back here, and you can see that it's created us a reciprocal field here as well. And we will get into this a little bit more in depth when we look at users who follow each other, right? Where I can have multiple followers and then that person can follow me and that sort of thing. We'll look at that more in depth when we get there. But just know that this is a thing that exists, and it's really, really useful. It's extremely useful. There's a lot of use cases for that, all right? So that's relationships in a nutshell. I would encourage you now to jump out of this video and go and create some of these relationships on your own if you haven't already. And if you're wanting to add some additional functionality, maybe add some collections that we don't have here and think about what relationships and properties you might need for that collection.